because that was our contract. And I will call to order our regular town council meeting for Monday, October 27th, 2025. For Copper Canyon, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And with that, calling to order, we'll start off with public input. Any citizen, thank you. Any citizen requesting to make comments to the town council during this segment of the meeting will be allowed. There's a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. Pursuant to state open meetings law, the town council cannot take action on items not posted on the agenda. Therefore, the council cannot take any action on any issues or items brought up during public input. So far, and if you want to sign up for input, there's a piece of paper over the side table once again. And I have one piece of paper here from Mark Pape.
Good evening, everybody. Mark Pape, 12050 Meadow Lake Drive. And what I wanted to make a comment on has absolutely nothing to do with this council whatsoever. I wanted to remind everybody that as an American, we have a sacred duty to vote. Right now, early voting is open, and the election's coming up soon after that, but I recommend early voting. It's much easier. There are 17 changes proposed to the Texas state constitution. Obviously, I'm not in a position to tell anybody how to vote. I just say, go do it, for or against. But in particular, I wanted to point out proposition number 4, which takes $1 billion per year from state tax revenues and puts it in the state water fund. As all of you know, water is a big problem, coming up worse and worse as this area grows. This area is expected to grow by a factor of 5 in the next 20 years. I don't know where they're going to get the water, but this has no impact on your sales taxes whatsoever. It just allocates a portion of them into this fund. It's $1 billion a year for 20 years, which should help with the water problem throughout Texas. So I just wanted to ask everybody to take a serious effort to go and vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Jeff, and if I could add onto him, we also have Proposition A, if you live within Denton ISD. For those of us that live within Denton ISD boundaries, that is really, really important because Proposition A is allowing funding for some of those projects that the legislature requires of school districts but provides no funding for. So that's really, really important for Denton ISD. So that's something else to think about.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Hubbard. Next one on my list here is Dean Hartley. Dean, if you would please come to the microphone, state your name. We already know it's Dean, and your address.
Mayor, Council, my name is Dean Hartley, 1340 Copper Canyon Road. Back to talk about the gas well issues we've got over there. It's basically just running the quality of life for us on that section of road and around it. You do not know how disruptive that vibration throughout the house is. Let's get the noise past it. We've got a dB rating for the noise, but there's nothing saying anything about the frequency that they're putting off causing vibrations throughout my residence. To the point that I just spent $6,000 spray foaming my house to try to justify or mitigate some of the issues that we're having. Help minutely. It's coming through the foundation. It's actually transferring from the ground. Basically, I've called Denton County, I've called the state of Texas, I've called the Railroad Commission, I've called TCEQ. All of them direct me right back in y'all's lap. Y'all have control, local government. And we need help.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for public input? No. Audit presentation, Valerie Halverson, she is not going to be here tonight, right, Troy?
That is correct. She took ill this afternoon and was unable to make it, so we can either push this item to the November meeting, November 10th, or the information was in your packet, and just a couple of highlights. There were no significant findings of deficiencies. And then if you turn to page 39 of the packet, it talks about revenue over expenses and what we had left over for the year. So we have saved some money as it relates to expenses, and then we had some additional revenues in. But as far as the report, if y'all want more details, she had a PowerPoint presentation ready to go. But if we wanted to move this to the November meeting, we certainly can do that.
She had a PowerPoint on this?
Yeah, she had a 4-slide PowerPoint, yeah. It was about 4 slides. It was a summary. It wasn't the whole manual.
So we talked about that, and I recommended we just go ahead and discuss it and/or vote on it to accept it. Once again, for everybody, the budget was well under what we had proposed for budget, what had been proposed for the previous budget, because it's from last year's budget. And we had an excess of $551,513 in revenue achieved compared to expenses. And of course, that went into our little savings account of $4 million. So we're on a good budget, we're on a good numbers, we're saving money. We're well below what we're allocated and have gotten from the state and the Denton County as far as tax revenue. So your money's well and being spent well and being conserved very well, I think. And we're gonna get more conservation here this year with this council in the future. So, are we taking a vote on this?
When it comes up in discussion, you are.
Okay, all right. Well, that was her presentation.
Right.
Mayor?
So unless the council member has any issue to push it to November, and we'll disregard that, I just recommend we just keep it as agenda as set.
Yeah, I would just note that having sat through a lot of audits, I mean, you jump to the opinion page, and they didn't flag anything.
Correct.
Everything was in order. So if
Chairman.
there were a couple things in there that they had flagged, I
Yeah.
would say, let's bring her in, but it's pretty clean.
Janae, do you have anything to say for that from a financial committee standpoint?
Looked through it and I was very pleased.
Very good. Okay. We'll move on to the next item, item 4, which is staff, mayor, and council reports and items of community interest. I'll start off with Troy.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of highlights in the staff report, as you guys have a copy of. The traffic light at 407 in Vickery, as you guys know, went live last month. We've had some glitches in the mornings. It'll drop to a flashing red in all directions, and creates quite a bit of traffic backup on Copper Canyon Road. On 407 at that time of day. TxDOT is notified immediately when that happens. They send a crew out. They've had some programming issues with it initially. They had a computer chip that was malfunctioning. They've replaced all that. They feel like they've now solved that problem, so we shouldn't be experiencing that anymore. But we'll continue to monitor that intersection as well. The other thing I wanted to highlight is we had met with Spectrum Charter. They have resubmitted a permit to do their aerial work. If you guys recall, a couple months ago, they did all the underground. They were waiting for permits from CoServe to attach to their poles, and that just takes a while in general. So they've resubmitted to the town, and they would like to move forward on attaching some of their cables to the aerial poles that you see throughout the neighborhoods.
Troy, on Spectrum, are they going to continue with the digging in the rest?
They have finished about 98% of all trenching and digging in front yards, that type of thing. But when they do the aerials, they'll have to drop down, trench a little bit, get into a box. So it's pretty minimum at this point.
It was like, for example, our neighborhood, we've all been flagged,
Right,
but nobody's been digging anything.
right.
So-
Because they were hoping to get those permits sooner than later, but
Okay.
we've met with them, and now they've pretty much got the ones they needed from CoServe. So that process has started. We haven't issued the permit yet. We have informed them that they cannot work during holiday weeks, so the week of Thanksgiving, no work that Monday through Friday, as well as Christmas as well. So they're aware of that. And then as soon as, I think Chris's team is reviewing some of those permits as well. So once we get everything is okay, we'll let you guys know.
What's the estimate once they finish all the aerial work and the digging? When
We've asked them that question. They do it in sections, and if everything goes well, weather and all those things, it's usually about 30 to 60 days. They're estimating.
So sometime next year, when that might be an option.
Yes, they're hoping to have it done by end of January,
Okay.
but they're hoping. So you got holidays and that week and the weather and all those things that are associated with that. So that's their goal, is to be done late January, early February on that. The other thing I wanted to mention is we had a great cleanup day here at Town Hall. We had about 88 residents drop off a variety of different things to go along with that. We had the fall trail cleanup. Steve and Robin Grinder did a great job. They calculated about 64 volunteer hours took place on that day to get the trails cleaned up as well. You've got a couple upcoming dates and events. We got council meeting on the 10th. Town Hall will be closed on the 11th, honoring Veterans Day. We've got a potential P&Z meeting on the November 17th. Of course, we have Thanksgiving break as well on the 27th, 28th. And then on December 6th, we have our annual Christmas event here at Town Hall from 3 to 5. Development, Copper Knolls is continuing to put in the improvements. They have got the street lights up, the signs up, the roads are on their way to be completed. They're doing some final grading. They've got some detention areas to finish up as well. And I know some of you may have driven by the site during this last rain event that we had. And that detention pond did exactly what it was designed to do during construction. And what I mean by that is all the water went into detention and started backing up on the property. It didn't go outside of the property. It was contained within the property, even though it flooded one of the streets within the development. The reason being is because that outflow structure has silt fencing around it. And how that works is that water falls in there with that muddy water, and then it has a slow release. If you go look at the surface drain today, you'll see that water is slowly leaving that, and it's clean water. And that's exactly what we were aiming for. So that's what's going on at the Copper Knolls. Copper Creek Estates, we have the drainage project that is working in conjunction with Phase 3 that's in the county. They had started cutting the street, and again, the rains kind of slowed them down as well. So they're waiting for that to dry out so they can continue to start laying some subsurface pipe for that. Ani Ranch, they are roughing in all the roads and some drainage and building retaining walls on that project as well. And then the minor plats, you kind of can see those listed. So those are being under review at this current time. And that is all that I've got. Any questions?
Yep.
I have a short question. You said that we have now hired our building inspectors, Safe Built.
That is correct.
Okay, and we have a team, is that what I heard? Or?
Yes, that is correct. So how the process works now, we have Safe Build is doing 100% of all of our inspections. So whether it's a roof, whether it's a new home, an accessory building, whatever. So when that request comes in, especially like for a large accessory building, for example, they have a plan review person that looks at that, and then they have a zoning person that looks at it. So there's two people that really will look at that plan when it comes to new homes, large accessory buildings, that type of thing. And so then that will go through that process as well. And we have a safe build inspector that does 100% of all the inspections, whether it's adding a water heater or a brand-new home, he will do them all. So, yes.
And just one person then?
He has
designated?
a second person as well.
Okay.
The process hasn't changed from the perspective that if you're going through the inspection process, you go online, you submit your permit number, the date in which you're requesting, and then it goes directly to Safe Build, and then he gets it, and then comes out the following day.
And you guys will get notification of that also on the website, or you'll be aware of anything?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
yep.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, that's the process we voted on a couple of months ago, or whatever, in October, excuse me. Getting a better process for permitting. Okay, thanks, Troy. Police Chief?
Mayor, Council. Chief Ty wants to apologize. He is actually on vacation this week, so he wasn't gonna be here, so I'm gonna fill in for him. I'm Sergeant Weisinger. The police department issued 162 citations last month in September. We are diligently out there trying to slow people down, and I think it's working a little bit, except for on a state's road, I guess. We're working on that. We had 46 calls for service, had 9 offense reports issued last month. Most of those being fraud. Fraud has been pretty rampant around here. You guys keep that in mind, that when you guys get phone calls or somebody sends you an email that says your bank account's been compromised, don't click on the little link. That's when they start getting your information. If somebody calls you, this is hard to understand, but if somebody calls you and asks you questions, they're wanting you to say yes or no, because they record that and they use that to get into your accounts. So if somebody calls you and asks you questions saying they're from your bank, hang up on them and call your bank. Most of the time when they send you an email, the email is off by one little letter or one little thing. You can't really tell it's there unless you look real good. It looks like your legit email address, but it's not them, and they're going to get your information if you click on that link. We are going to do a town hall type of instruction for the citizens, where we're gonna go over a lot of the different frauds. Probably gonna do that in November, before Christmas, because that's when a lot of the fraud starts actually ramping up too, is during Christmas holidays. It'll be put on the website so that if you guys want to attend, we'll go through all the frauds that they're actually using right now. If you guys are gonna go on vacation, remember you can go online to the website and actually put in a vacation request, and then we will keep an eye on your property while you're gone. And if you have an issue or something, make sure you call to let us know. If you need us right then, call 911. If you call our office and we don't answer, it's gonna roll over to the dispatch at Denton County, and just let them know and we will get in touch with you, or we'll get there to assist you guys. Anybody got any questions?
No, I do want to mention, on Jernigan and 407, for those who are unfamiliar, and it's sad to say, there was a fatal accident down there about 3 weeks ago now?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago now, and stuff. And so I'm working with the Denton County roads people and trying to figure out if we're gonna make that safer for everybody, access on that road. Now, it wasn't necessarily the intersection that was a problem.
Yes.
But, we're not gonna go into details of it or anything like that, but it's just sad that we had a fatal accident, not one of our citizens, but on that road down there. So we're gonna work on making that joining FM 407 with the traffic safer for everybody, and also on 2499. We're gonna look on that with Denton County. But of course, most of those decisions they're above my pay grade. So, but we're gonna let everybody know that be very careful when you're joining 407 down there off of Jernigan Road.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it. Chris, you're next. If you're ready, you got anything for us?
No, try.
Okay, Chris is done. Chief?
Evening, Mayor, Council, Ricky Vaughn, Fire Chief.
Well, happy new fiscal year to everyone. We're in a new fiscal year, so things are going well. If you got our monthly report, you'll notice September was a slow month for us. So usually I get here and I say, you know, it's busiest, previous month we'd ever had, and this August and even going into September, we've been actually a little bit slower than usual. So we'll just kind of keep monitoring that trend and see if it continues. But October has been pretty busy. We had the storms recently, and we were very, very busy for a couple of nights there. We had a couple structure fires in our district alone, and I know our neighboring departments also had fires. So lightning strikes is a big issue, and it's a big issue in this area. I don't know if it has anything to do with the minerals in the ground, but we do get a lot of lightning strike calls. One of the calls we had was a person who was on their phone was plugged in, but it was not on a core surge protector, and they actually got electrocuted. I mean, they were okay, but we checked them out. But it is a real problem, and we do see it. Usually don't see it this time of year, but we did. But anyway, it is something we had to deal with. We were very, very busy. Good news for us is we got our very first 107-foot aerial ladder. This is kind of historical for us. We've never had that before. Never really had a need for it before. Now we are. And so we've been putting that in service. It went in service on October 5th. We had to do a lot of training. None of our firefighters had the certification to do that. So the state of Texas, there are certification courses. It's almost like getting your driver's license. And so we trained a lot of our firefighters on how to operate the aerial ladder. And so I'm happy to say it's in service. And we're keeping it at Station 514, which is in the Harvest community, if you're familiar where that is. It will end up at the new station once the station is built, but which is scheduled to be open in April, May of 26. But we're excited to have that on board, and we will be doing our kind of official, what I call the traditional push-in ceremony. We'll be doing that on Sunday, November 16th, between 3 and 4 p.m. We'll be pushing out information about that. Look forward to having any of you can be there for that. We always enjoy having that, especially all the kids, and it's just kind of a very kind of a traditional history in the fire service. Other things, tomorrow we have our community advisory stakeholder meeting, so we invite all our mayors and town managers, police chiefs, ISD officials. We have a lot of key stakeholders in our community who come to that. So tomorrow we'll be discussing our strategic plan, what we're doing for FY26. We'll give a more detailed update on the station and just really do what we call a round table at the end, just to kind of hear what's going on in each of the towns and the communities and each of the agencies. So look forward to doing that. Other news, we're starting our kickoff for the Argyle Food Bank as one of our, we do a couple of charities, things that we participate in the kind of going into the holiday season. And I've talked to Argyle Food Bank, and they are definitely struggling this time. I mean, as you can imagine, with a lot of inflation, a lot of struggles there. So if you can help out, it's a great time to give, especially with coming up on Thanksgiving. So we have boxes at all the stations. We're going to be trying to campaign and put some things out to kind of help out there. Other than that, I'll stop right there and take any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it. Anybody, any questions?
Question, Randy?
Who runs that food bank? Is that Argyle? or is
It's
that
right there. They
nonprofit?
run it out of the First Baptist Church on 377. That's where it's at. So I don't know who
So the church is running it, or the
well, they
city?
run it out of the church, but it is
Okay.
the Argyle Food Bank. That's the entity. But they do run it out of. And I didn't even, when I first got there, I didn't even know it existed. We were just kind of looking around. Who could we help out, whatever, but they do have kind of a food pantry, and so we collect, canned goods and stuff like that, and so we've also donated, someone donated a bunch of box fans to the station. We said, well, let's give it to them, so we just, it's one way to give back, so we're always trying to be involved in the community, so. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right.
We're
Thank you
good.
all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh, Chase has got a
I'm
question.
sorry.
Oh.
Thank you, Chief. Just going back to either Troy or Chris, on the Rochelle Stevens edition, you had in here that it got changed to major plat for a drainage estimate call-out. What does that mean?
So, if this is what I'm thinking of, the town currently has no standard for a replat. There's no minor replat or major replat, it's just replat. And in the P and Z meeting, the printout had minor on that. And so we had asked that get removed. If that's the right thing.
I think, no, this is talking, it's going to a major.
So yeah, we changed that from a major, because our current ordinance is a little bit vague on whether it's a drainage facility, because we asked them to add that easement because they got a creek running through their property. And so they needed to add that drainage easement to it. But our ordinance speaks to drainage facilities or easements, then it changes the status of the plat. And so, but we have decided that would be, that's what changed the status. If that makes sense. Because of that easement. In other words, they're not just moving lines.
Just a drainage easement, they're not proposing drainage facilities,
It's because of the public improvement aspect.
so they are making a public improvement to the
That
drainage.
would qualify as.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to finish up with one more item. Earlier this last week, we had I held a public workshop on our ordinance review too, to recap of my report here. And we had all the committees were invited from P&Z, Board of Adjustments, and the town council members, and whoever could show up. And it's all about leading into our next process we're going to be doing, which is reviewing our ordinances from top to bottom, and then taking input from all of our volunteers and also the public in general into that input, and see if we can meld that to make our ordinances more secure for 2025 than they were back in 1972. So that's where we're trying to get to, and we had a big meeting on that. It was, input and output was excellent, and we've accumulated all that data, and we're going to wait for our next process to get through the town council. I want everybody to know that we did that this week. Any other reports that we can think of, Troy, that we need to say?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, we're good. Staff reports are done. We'll go to number 6, consent. These are consent items are generally routine in nature and administrative. As such, these items are considered for approval by a single motion and vote generally without discussion. Council members can vote to remove an item or items from the agenda so it can be considered separately and/or action or discussion posted as part of the consent agenda. The two items we have on the consent agenda are: 1, approve the September 8, 2025 minutes of the city council meeting, and approve the September 25th financials. I'll take a motion for going for a vote for accepting the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, before we take a vote, I needed to request a change on action item number 1. It states that that motion passed unanimously, and that is incorrect. That this is the statement of work received from Civic Plus, that contract. That motion did not pass unanimously. There was 1 nay vote. So I'll
Okay.
request that change. Otherwise, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the September 8th, 2025 meetings. And the,
As amended.
Yes.
As amended. So we have a motion for amending and approving the minutes of the September 8, 2025 meeting, and also the 2025 financials. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Dahl. All in favor of approving the September 8, 2025 minutes of the council meeting and September 2025 financials? All in favor, as amended, say aye.
Aye.
And against, say nay. And that's a unanimous vote for approval of those two items as amended. Next, we're going to move to number 7, public hearing. The town council will conduct a public hearing to consider ordinance and amending a code of ordinances repealing Chapter 10 subdivision regulations and Chapter 10A subdivision ordinance in its entirety, and replace it with new Chapter 10 subdivision ordinance. I'll open the public meeting on this discussion item, and this is a item that we've been carrying for almost a year now, probably. It's been through many reviews, many one-on-one interviews, one-on-one inputs from the committees, P&Z committees, all the way up through our committee. I know Chase worked hard on it. We had some fine tuning items we had to finish up. Those are in the packet. And is there any discussion on the public hearing for the subdivision chapter 10 ordinance? Seeing none, nobody wants to speak. I'll open it up for council discussion on the subdivision ordinance. Any discussion? Paula?
Are we going down, you're just opening with that? or
I'm
what?
just opening with that, yeah. Just a public hearing. See if you had any discussion on it.
Yeah.
Are we having, so we're skipping over?
Are you
No,
gonna,
I'm just in the public hearing part. We're not doing that.
I'll wait
I'm not
till we
voting.
get to the discussion,
Okay.
consider and take action.
All right. So there,
I
you
won't.
guys don't have any discussion items on that in
Not
public?
now,
Okay.
not currently.
With that, I'll close the public hearing on that ordinance, chapter 10, and we'll move to action and discussion items. The first item on discussion is discuss, consider, and take action regarding approving the Town of Copper Canyon, Texas Annual Financial Report for the year ending September 30th, 2024. I'll open discussion on that. Any discussion by the council? Hearing no discussion, I'll close that, and I will entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve Town of Copper Canyon's annual financial report, year ended September 30th, 2024.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Hubbard. And let's take a vote on approving the annual financial report for September, closing September 30th, 2024. All in favor, say aye.
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 All against, say nay. And that passes unanimously. Going to the next item. Discuss, consider, and take action regarding ordinance 25-016, amending the Code of Ordinances by repealing Chapter 10 subdivision regulation and Chapter 10A subdivision ordinance in its entirety and replacing with the new Chapter 10 subdivision ordinance. I will open discussion and consideration on that item. Any discussion on that, on the new Section 10 ordinance we've been working on for a long time?
Yeah, thank you.
Chase?
Will do my best. It's been a long road. We've worked on this for quite some time, and in my opinion, very close. But a few comments I think I would like to make about this ordinance. This is a subdivision ordinance, and there is a trigger for platting that involves building permits for unplatted lots. Unplatted lots are not scary, they're just a little different. I know we all live on platted lots and therefore are not going to be burdened by anything in this ordinance that we're about to pass. But there are a handful of folks in town that either live or own unplatted lots. So I've taken the time, I did this last year when we started the subdivision ordinance, created a little map showing a list of the unplatted lots in town that this ordinance will affect, for just the mere purpose of a building permit. So when you are required plat, it should be because you're subdividing or designated streets, drainage utilities, etc. But throughout history, people have been building on unplatted lots as long as they conform with the rest of the zoning requirements, of course. So my goal is to have some sort of exception for building permits, not triggering plats, as long as those lots are within the zoning requirements. And I will propose a possible solution, which I'm hoping will be taken seriously, because the significant cost to all these folks, if they are required to plat, not subdivide, just to plat, is a very high burden and cost. Not to mention the process of coming through and having a P&Z meeting, a council meeting, just to acquire a simple building permit, which many of the people throughout history in this town, and quite frankly how the town was kind of put together, were allowed to do. So it's not a scary thing that somebody gets to build on an unplatted lot. Now, the fear is that, from what I've heard, we have no control over how that property gets dealt with in the future. And after racking my brain for quite some time, trying to find some sort of solution other than just an outright exception or elimination of requiring a plat to get a building permit, there were some very interesting solutions where you, and we had this in one of the prior versions, where you submit a current survey of your property, and it has to meet all the zoning requirements, whether it's 1 acre, 2 acre, 5, whatever acreage it is. It's got access to a public road. Doesn't need any extensions of drainage facilities. You're not burdening anybody else. You're just building on your own existing piece of property, whatever that may be, where you submit the current survey. And then I heard the comments about, well, that doesn't mean that they can't do something further with their property later on down the line with extra acreage or whatever. And I came across the example of a development agreement, or call it a plat deferral, where you have an agreement with the town, it is filed of record in the county, that they're allowing you, the lot conforms, they're allowing you to have a building permit, but you're not allowed to further subdivide without triggering that platting requirement at that point in time. So it's not that that property won't ever be platted, it's just in its current configuration, they're allowed to build something on it without having to spend the time and money to go through the plat process. And as you can see, there is a significant amount of the town, 190 lot tracts, that this ordinance has proposed, and if passed in its current form, will trigger that platting process. For anything over 1,200 square feet, I think was the number that got put in there. I don't know where that number came up. I made some suggestions that, certain things be allowed as, size of properties get bigger. So limiting everything to 1,200 square feet just does not make reasonable sense. The other really big consideration, forcing people to plat with regards to ag property, is that property will then trigger a denial, a revocation of their ag use. They're going to have to reapply for their ag, which is a significant chore if you've ever had to go through Denton County Appraisal District to get your ag. And that just mere plat requirement will trigger that. So another burden on a lot of folks in town that won't affect their neighbor or anybody else. Now, if there's any reason why what they're building, whether it's a single-family residence, because that's what we are, or a barn, or whatever it might be, affects somebody else or doesn't conform with their zoning, then you'd have to go through the platting process. But as it sits, wherever their properties are, and most all of these are already conforming. Now, if somebody had an access issue, then they'd have to figure that out, but that would be determined by the engineer, town staff, mostly the engineer, whether that property is acceptable to be built on. And as you can see, many of these have already been built on. Even Bear Sioux, I believe you have a platted lot yourself. Has there been any detriment because it's unplatted? It was?
Chase, so there were exceptions listed under the building permits, these triggers here, I thought you
Yeah,
were part
so-
of this committee that wrote this.
No, I did not write those. The
This new
proposals that
language?
we had originally incorporated got struck out.
Those are at the bottom.
Why, I don't know. How, I don't know, or the reasoning behind it. I'm not here to argue necessarily, is 1,200 square feet the right size? No, I think it's, if you got a large property that they need to build a hay barn, well, that's gonna be quite a bit bigger than 1,200 square feet. Or if a person wants to build a homestead, single-family house, that's all they're allowed to do. Our zoning ordinances protect all the things that most people fear with a non-platted property.
Those are 1 to 5 acre lots though. So if you look at number 1 here, it says, and I had a question on where the language came from also, because it's different than what we saw last time, but there is an exception for large landowners as long as it doesn't exceed 25%.
What if you don't have an existing structure?
Well, you got your homestead, you got
There's
something.
properties that's where I'm getting at. If you've got a piece of property, should be allowed to build a homestead. Whether it's there now or not, this is all predicated that you already have a house there. So that's kind of
But
unfair.
how many of these don't have any sort of building on there? I would think that's a very rare exception.
So the list behind you is all the parcels, and this isn't QC'd perfectly. It's all off DCAD back when we started this process. There's about 190 parcels. If you look on the right-hand column, there's a year built and the size, put size structure. I'm assuming most of them are houses. So those are the ones that have existing structures on them. And then the ones down toward the bottom, or the end of the spreadsheet, appear to not have any structure. So it's impossible for me to say how many don't have it.
Could you explain your color code on this for us? I know you guys don't have it back here, but you guys got these things color coded. What's a purple mean? What's a green mean?
So the purple, I just went from 2006, because that's where our current code of ordinances were created, which said you have to plat to build, right? So this isn't unnormal. I'm just hoping that this is an opportunity for us to look at something that was passed in 2004 and add some reasonability to our town, because we're not North Lake, which is where that mostly came from. Those were all built on unplatted lots, weren't required to plat. Did the wheels fall off of those lots? I guess where my, point of highlighting those were. Same with the green was just prior to 2000, which was
Okay.
before the requirement to
Okay,
plat.
gotcha. And the white on the back is what? The
Uh,
uncolored ones?
Yeah, they just, to me, appeared not to have any structure, at least according to DEP.
Okay,
So before the requirement, it's plat, right here, it's green as well.
Yes.
But they're probably adjacent to another property with a structure on it, right?
It's, a lot of that could be, the case.
all right, let me ask you this question, Chase, if you don't mind, in order to try to decide on this new subdivision ordinance. Do you have any issues with the subdivision ordinance besides the large lot issue that you're talking about?
No, I think that's kind of where I've been hung up for quite a while, is not necessarily just large lot, but just a requirement for somebody to have to plat if they don't have a platted lot to get any kind of building permit.
Sure, I understand.
For the most part.
And, we want to maintain and keep our farms and keep our ranches that we have left here before they're all split up into HOAs and things like that, but, so you would accept this ordinance that you worked on really hard, and I'm not blaming you, to saying you're the core thing, because you worked with a big team of people to do it, and we reviewed this quite a few times with quite a few members throughout the town. Would you accept this ordinance if we said we're gonna go back and fix your input for the large lots?
The trigger for platting.
trigger for
day
platting.
stop building permit.
Yes.
Yeah, the majority of the whole document, which is geared towards subdivision.
Yes,
development.
yes, that's where we're vulnerable in Copper Canyon. And that's where we gotta solve. And this thing's gotta solve it for us today, because the next step as I said earlier, the next step we're working towards on this council is to go through our ordinances and review them, and this needs to be a part of it. If it's not a part of it, we're gonna be going back to an old document that is very poorly written and will be changed anyways, and will be updated anyways to this document. So my point is, council members, Chase, who's worked on this hard and for a year, sorry, you got the short straw, is accepting of this document, save his final input to fix the large lot, large landowner plotting. Am I paraphrasing?
Yeah, and how that procedurally would work. The subdivision triggers a plat, Mark.
Yeah, if I may.
Yes,
Not-
Mark.
Not large lots, it's any property that wants a building permit that's not platted. So it could be a small lot, it's not necessarily large. And I'm with Chase, I don't know how that got ripped out of there. The thought when last we worked on it was that people who had a survey and wanted to get a building permit could use that survey instead of having to be required to get a plat. So I don't know how it changed since the last time we looked at it.
All right.
So I'm supporting Jason's perspective on that particular.
Yeah, and I think I totally understand that, and the protection of, and not cause being undue burden for exceedance on money spent where you don't need to.
The building permit should not trigger the plat. You still have to go through the building
You still have to go
process.
permit, you have to go the permit process and everything like that before you can build, of
Right.
course, on anything. So, save your input. You're good with this document.
Yes, if the building permit triggers a plat is removed, and we can revisit that and put it back later in some tweaking form of fashion, that's fine. I would not like to see that trigger a plat. Subdivisions, yes. That's what this is about.
These exceptions are pretty fair, though, with the exception of the situation where you don't have any structure on it. I mean, if you were a large landowner, the first exception about 25% of all existing structure square feet, I mean, that's a pretty fair.
Right, but if you don't have a structure, it
Right,
has
so,
no.
but specifically, the
Yeah.
issue at hand is properties without a structure on it. We need to solve for that.
And if you have a structure,
I'd hate to throw out all
say
this.
you've got a farm and you live out there and you wanna go build a hay barn, well, it's gonna be a lot bigger than 1,200 square feet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, yes, Jeff, if everybody had a, 20,000 square foot house, well, then you're pretty good to go, but that's not the case. It's kind of a moot exception.
All right, well, go ahead, Paul.
I
Yes.
have a question about that, and you're talking about existing structures. It's on page 34. No plat or replat may be approved that leaves a structure located on a remainder subdivided lot. So if there's a large piece of land and somebody wants to replat, I mean, can you explain that to me, someone? Troy or Chase?
Yeah, so basically, if somebody has a piece of property, they subdivide, case in point, my mother's piece of property, where she lives is not platted, it was all, old land, so it wasn't platted. Sold off part of the property to an uncle, and the rest wasn't platted, so she's technically a remainder tract. I think the answer to that, hopefully, would be we make sure that any remainder tract, instead of necessarily having to force it, most people probably plat it, so it's not really a discussion, but if they, for some reason, didn't want to plat it, that we go through the same process that I'm proposing with the building permit, that you submit, you have a survey, it shows that it's conforming, that it can exist on its own, that it doesn't need anything else to survive, might be the answer to that, unless everybody wants to force the remainder tract to plat, which, I'm good either way, but I get the intent.
Okay, well, I think with the master document as it is, we can always make adjustments to it and things as we do all the time anyways, and as we move forward. Plus, it'll allow whichever company we choose to review our ordinances, the ability to go through it and even give us more advice. That's my thought on this.
So are we
Ms.
proposing
Castillo?
to remove section 1.5, page 9E, and just remove that? Or, because basically, it says what Chase was talking about. It says that it has to be platted. And, you know, this is pretty telling if you look at, because somebody had once told me, well, 90 to 95% of Copper Canyon is platted, which obviously isn't the case, right? I mean, these are some, people around your neighborhood. So,
Well,
I'm just saying, there are some smaller like around me, 2 acres. So I can't approve anything that has that in there because I think we have to take it out, you
But
know?
most of these have structures on them.
We have the language in there where the person that requests a building permit on an unplatted parcel has to meet the requirements and may submit a current survey. And they still have to follow the building codes, they have to follow zoning ordinance, they can't build on a smaller piece of ground than it's zoned for. All those things that you're worried about are still enforceable. You're just not requiring that plat, that legal block A, lot 2, or whatever it is. It's just it needs a bounce chart. If that makes sense.
Just for clarity's sake, I'm looking at this, almost all these have structures. Okay? I don't want anybody here to think that these are structureless properties.
they're not.
There may be 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Right, most of these have a structure. And if you've got a structure, the first exception says, does not exceed 25%. Nobody's gonna build a hay barn that's a quarter of the size of their home, right? That's a
There's
massive
one
hay
on
barn
Orchid Hill, there's several on Orchid Hill
that are bigger than the house.
Oh my gosh.
that happens
I
all
mean,
the
I put
time.
up 100 and something bales a year, and plus all my equipment, and think I could fit that in that? No. And please, I'll show you, but
Right.
it's, the 1,200 square foot is, for some places, a very restrictive number. And again, that's why I always try to go back to, depending on the size of property, like our accessory building ordinance.
So where did that language come from? The 25%?
So that was just something that when Chase and I were communicating, we wanted to delete that below, and we wanted to kind of
Right.
backfill it with something. And just due to time perspective, we kind of put this together with a planner that looked at this and said, okay, this may or may not be reasonable. You can adjust the percentages. If you don't want 25%, you could, move that up to 30 or 40. But this was just a opportunity to look at this, and if it's something that we don't want, we can definitely strike it. It was just something as consideration other than what was there prior to that called out 5 acres or more and 5 acres or less.
Jeff, let me ask you, if it's still got to go through the process and meet all the requirements, what is the negative? Because the burden that it puts on a lot of people will be quite extensive. And again, all of us live on platted lots.
Right.
So we're putting something through that's not going to affect any one of us.
I don't have a dog in this fight, to be honest with you. I was surprised at the new language, but then when I was looking at it, I thought it probably would have resolved most of the issues. But that's a fair point. I am thinking there are some hay barns that are pretty doggone big.
So
All right,
So there's something around this first item that needs to be
right.
kind of modified somehow.
So I think we need to go back to just providing a survey versus a plat, is what I hear you guys saying.
Yes, that's what we had in there.
Okay.
For a bit.
which line
a
is that?
building
Troy?
permit.
Which line would you put that on, Troy?
It would fall under that section, under building permit.
Permits.
So if you're gonna build some structure on your property, regardless of the acreage, you would have to at minimum provide us a survey before we'd issue the building permit.
Are you happy with that, Chase? That kind of language?
Yeah, how do we do that on procedurally? Because we'd like, I agree, I'd like to get this gone through, but want to make sure that gets changed and how exactly we're going to phrase that is important.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll move this agenda, this item for a final vote in November meeting with the additional language adjusted on that, survey process, where it needs to be put in. Deborah, does that make sense to do?
That we just change that, and then we,
Yes.
That makes sense to do, all right.
and then what about the part where that structure, no plat or replat is approved that leaves a structure on the remainder subdivided lot? Do we want to keep that in, or, because, I mean, there are gonna be people that affects.
I get the intent, and that's again where, when whatever is being platted for a survey subdivision, that has extra attention and not get left out, because that's what we're afraid of, is that a piece of property just gets left out there, and then the people don't have a way to get there, or they don't have electricity, et cetera.
Yep, that's exactly
But,
right.
I think that could be handled in the platting process of whatever subdivision is happening, that parcel is still able to stand on its own.
Okay. All right, I'll take I'm gonna, does we have any other discussion on this item? We're gonna push it to November 7th. I'll tell you how we're gonna do it in a second.
Another question.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Will the public hearing be affected at all? Do they need to have a
They have to
certain,
continue the public hearing
Okay.
as part of the motion.
even though it was closed earlier?
Well, did you close the public
I
hearing?
close the public hearing, so we can go to the action and discussion
All
on
right,
this.
okay.
'Cause
Well,
we're in
it
action
can
discussion.
be reopened.
We'll have a second public hearing on that.
Yeah, we can have a second public hearing
Do I
on that.
notice that in the paper and all that, or can we?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Are we gonna have time for that? For November 7th?
No, we're not. It's
November 10th.
Not the 7th, the 10th.
It's November
November 10th?
right, but it won't go into the paper until the first.
Okay.
So, can we, usually, can we reopen the public hearing and leave it open?
Yeah, let's do that. And then we can continue the public hearing,
Okay.
so.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll take a motion to put this, table this, discussion and action on ordinance 25016 for amending the code ordinance in chapter 10 subdivision regulation in its entirety with replacement. I'll take a motion to table this item.
I make a motion, we table the subdivision regulation, chapter 10,
Do we have a second to table this item?
And continue the public hearing.
and continue the public hearing on November 10th.
I'll reopen the public hearing, all right? And is there a second to table this motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Dahl. And we'll have a vote for tabling this motion, this item. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those against, say nay. That passes unanimously to table this item. And now I'm going to reopen the public hearing on ordinance, Code of Ordinances repealing Chapter 10 subdivision regulation and Chapter 10 subdivision ordinances entirety and replacing with new Chapter 10 subdivision ordinance. Is there any public input at this time? The answer is no. We're gonna freeze that and keep it open until the next meeting of November 10th.
Okay, I'm sorry, you needed to reopen that before the vote, because the vote was gonna be to table the motion and continue the public hearing. I thought you had reopened the public hearing. So,
Okay. So, okay, what do you want me to do?
Paula made that motion, by the way, she made it to keep it open and table.
yeah.
She
Right.
Okay, and Jay, he seconded it. All right, so we have that vote. It's done.
Okay.
So the public hearing is open. All right. Thought I did that. Let's go to number 3, discuss and consider and take action on ordinance 25014, amending Article 3, building regulations to add a new chapter 3.11, tree preservation requirements, related to tree preservation and protection, tree removal permitting, and tree replacement requirements. I'll open discussion and consideration on that item. This comes from our necessary to preserve our trees, and Councilmember Dahl has done a great job as far as bringing this forward to us. Jeff, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a couple things. So the original tree ordinance was removed from chapter 10
Right.
in the thought that it would speed along chapter 10's progress, and that obviously didn't work. So we've been running naked without any tree preservation plan, right? And we've got a development that just kicked off where we've got really no control, which is Awney Ranch. But it would really be helpful for us to get this new ordinance put in place to protect against further development. Another note on the original ordinance was it was basically just for new development. It didn't cover anything else, right? Which is a little scary, but when you dig into it, you see a need for something different.
Absolutely.
And we researched 4 or 5 other towns, their ordinances, and tried to come up with something really fair for Copper Canyon. I think this delivers that. It also adds a distinction for specimen and historic trees. If we choose to say, hey, this is a historic tree. If any of you want an example of that, at Highland Village, we actually requested Walmart to push back their pad to save that giant pecan tree in the front. That's an example of what this would enable us to do. And it closed a couple, some of the changes also closed several loopholes that developers had.
And this is exactly the reason why we need to review our ordinances professionally and go through our ordinances to solve these kind of issues and loopholes that we have. Any other discussion on this item? Janine?
I have a question, and it's a question for Councilman Castillo. When we discussed the tree preservation a long time ago, as many months ago, you had some expertise in this area. You had some particulars about some of the specimen, like species or whatever that was, and you had some concern at the time when we were discussing this.
Well, it was not really any expertise, just generally.
Like just
There
some
was one of the
experience.
trees on there that is still on the list, I think it's a dingo tree. And
Got
it is a Texas-approved tree, but it can be toxic to animals, dogs and horses, and children and people, the leaves. I don't know, just something that we talked about when we had one of the workshop meetings about a year and a half ago. It's still on there, I mean, it is a approved tree, so a lot of other towns have it. It's unlikely that it would probably get planted in Copper Canyon because it's kind of a unique tree, but it is a fast-growing tree, so I'm fine with moving it on there. We just have to maybe, I don't know, if y'all wanna think about it or not.
I'm remembering that as
Yeah.
one that she brought up as a concern, and that's just
It's
something
still
that
on there, but,
concerns me.
you know, it just got carried over.
That's my only concern.
Sometimes you can't give up the good for searching for the great.
What was the name of the tree?
It's the ginkgo tree, Ginkgo, and just because, when in my research, I was reading about horses
Certainly.
and dogs and, livestock.
Well, I believe we can approve this, eliminating that one, if it's part of the,
Okay.
I've heard mixed stories on
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
We've got a mutual neighbor from South Africa that's really big on the ginkgo tree and the dangers to cattle but there's a lot of different specimens. So it depends on what, and I'm not a horticulturist, that's not my bag here, but if we want to eliminate that one, that's
yeah,
I
fine
mean,
with
we
me.
just-
that's part of their approval, yeah.
Yeah, we just, now that we've mentioned it, we might want to.
All right, any other discussion on the tree ordinance?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick.
Okay.
First off, 100% support saving our trees. When Lantana got developed, it was pretty depressing to see all those get knocked out, so it kills me. But I do have some procedural questions on the applicability of this, just again to make sure it doesn't create some undue burden on existing landowners. not the developers, the existing landowners with what they're doing with their property. The first, you have, the terms and provisions of this chapter applies to all that follows.
What page?
Page 7. It's just a little confusing. A, it applies to all real property in which any protected specimen historic tree is located. But then you have B, all vacant undeveloped real estate. And then C, all real property to be subject. It's like, doesn't A take care of it? Why do you need all these others? G, there's a simplified process for tree removal permits unrelated to new developments. I did not see what that was.
That's further in the ordinance.
Okay. I'm trying to run through these just so you think about it, if anybody has any questions. I mean, generally, I'm good with it. A diseased, damaged tree. If somebody's got a tree that's dead on their property, that they're not required to go hire a tree surveyor and go get a permit for a tree removal permit. They could take down the tree. We just want to make sure that that is very clear. I believe it is, but I'm not an expert on this tree ordinance.
A specimen, if you look at the definition of a specimen tree, it's very large, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, if you want to take, if you have a specimen tree in your yard right now, yeah, you need to get a permit to take it down.
Even if it's
A dead tree?
Oh, a dead tree, I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Dead.
Yeah, no, dead or diseased.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah.
I noticed that there is changing to what appeared to be what we used to have. Is that where this came from? This is the original ordinance, and this is
This is modified.
modified in
Yes.
blue from the original ordinance.
Chase, bottom line, the original was you could do anything you wanted.
Well, that's not, we don't want that. I get that, but
With the exception of a new development.
Yeah,
Anybody else could do anything they wanted.
well, we don't want anything you want. I agree with that. Page 10. In the bottom of the page, a tree removal permit is not required, but scratched out for any tree located inside the buildable area, so it appears now that there's not even a point to put something about a buildable area, because it's all protected, is the way this is now reading. A permit is required for any tree, so what's the point of even putting?
It's specimen and historic trees, so
Right, oh, of course, yes.
You're encouraging builders to move their buildable area to kind of protect.
But
My house is a great example.
that's done by just setback lines, the buildable area, from what I'm pretty sure, right?
Right, but in the old ordinance, you could put a buildable area wherever you wanted to, right, regardless if there was a tree there or not. And that was one loophole where a developer could get around our original tree ordinance. You see, say, oh, that's my buildable area. Here's the approved development plan, wipe the tree out.
No, I get it, it's just,
Right.
say every tree has to have a permit. If you want to build something and there's a tree there, you've got to have a tree permit, which then does trigger a pretty monetary cost. I don't know sizes, but if you want to take down a tree, you got to replace it. It's just going to cost, right? So having some sort of small tolerance versus any tree you take out. I don't know if there's a balance there, if there's any other city that has some sort of, flexibility with that. Again, I absolutely do not want anybody coming and clear cutting, but if you've got one tree, or a couple trees for your house, or whatever it is you're doing, some sort of allowance. And again, I don't know if that's ever been put in any kind of city ordinance, but I think there should be just something.
Chase, you're talking about not a diseased tree, not a dead tree.
Yes, no, I'm
You're
moving
talking
on. Those are just, I wanted to touch on those just to have you think about them. And get the answer, which was you don't have to have a tree permit for removing a dead tree. But
I'll say that some of the ordinances that.
total building area
Really
is,
strict. Like South Lake, for example, it's like, they must have tree police running around there. So like a scale 1 to 10 on the stuff we looked at, this is like a 5. And if that makes you feel any better.
You know,
Before we were at 1 or 2, right?
and I do think, that, you know, if there's a tree there that is a questionable, it's a big tree, or leaving a little tree and you remove it, I think the town and people would want you to make a financial decision if you need to. Hey, I'm gonna have to replace that tree. And is it worth it to me to do that, or do I need to keep that tree and change my plans? You know, because that's why we're here in Copper Canyon, is protect those trees and
Yeah, no,
and
and
stuff,
I
so,
absolutely agree with.
you know, there is always a financial requirement and stuff, big and small, when you make a decision on what you're gonna build. So, any other any other discussion about it? The tree ordinance?
Chase, on 13, there's caliper dimensions too. I mean,
Right.
these aren't little trees. I mean, these are.
No, I understand.
And none of these
It's
documents,
just, it's something that triggers a cost to an existing landowner if they wanna do something. I get the developer side of it, but just somebody that wants to do something on their property. What that cost, I know what it is,
Yeah.
but there is a cost.
Yeah, there is a
We're going
cost,
to impose
for a tree
that cost.
Yeah, I think it's pretty minimal.
Yeah.
50 bucks. I think we need to, if there's no other discussion on that, I think we do need a tree ordinance, we need to get
Yeah,
it in there,
I
we
know,
need
I
it and
think-
stuff, and these are not stagnant documents either, they can always be amended, they can always be changed down the road.
These comments
So-
were because this week was the first week I've seen this.
Oh, yeah.
The language, so sorry
Sure.
for the discussion.
No.
Lengthy discussion.
That's why we have discussion at the council meetings.
There's an egg exemption in here too, by the way. I don't know if you saw that section.
So,
For
I'm
existing-
gonna close discussion then on the, ordinance, I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve the ordinance 25014, amending Article 3 building regulations. Do I have a
And Mayor,
motion?
also add that we're gonna eliminate that species of a tree,
Oh, and it's amended to eliminate the ginkgo tree.
Yes.
Yes. I don't even think we have ginkgo trees around here, I don't know. There's one, well, what the heck, you got it up there.
Eliminate it from the approved tree list.
Yeah.
Eliminate from the approved tree, as amended to eliminate the ginkgo tree from the approved tree list inside of Copper Canyon. I'll take a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve, hoping that we can
Motion by-
discuss some of the issues I brought up in the future
Councilmember Weber.
session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Newton. What am I doing wrong, Deborah?
Well, Chase's motion, are you making a motion to approve
No,
the
yes,
tree?
yeah.
Okay, so
We
it
need-
needs to
need to get
state
it done.
that.
It was just
Needs
the
to state,
intent.
approve the tree ordinance, eliminating ginkgo as a tree, as an approved tree.
Oh, yes.
Approve the ordinances and then,
Forgot about
with the
that.
exception of
Ginkgo
removing
tree.
that from the ordinance.
No, not with the exception, with removing it from the ordinance.
Yeah.
I know, it's such a mess, sorry.
With
why don't you-
removing the ginkgo tree from the ordinance.
Oh, make a motion to remove the ginkgo tree from the
Approve
subject
the
tree.
ordinance with removing the ginkgo tree.
Approve the ordinance with removing the ginkgo tree from the ordinance.
tree list.
Tree ordinance.
Approved tree list.
It's ginkgo and ginkgo.
Do I have a second on that motion?
She seconded.
Second.
Oh, Councilmember Newton has seconded. All right, I will take a vote, I'll get it right this time, on accepting and approving ordinance 25014, amending Article 3, building regulations to add a new chapter 3.11, tree preservation requirements related to tree preservation and protection, tree removal and permitting, and tree replacement requirements as amended with removing the ginkgo tree from one of the approved trees in that ordinance. Do I have, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. The ginkgo tree has been removed from Copper Canyon.
Or
There you go.
There are two.
Open season.
There's two.
It's ginkgo and ginkgo biloba.
No, those are, that's just a,
Is it, are
You
there not two?
no, it's the same.
Ginkgo?
We'll handle that,
It's biloba.
we're gonna handle that next month, Janae. All right, we're gonna move on. Discuss and consider taking action regarding amending the existing contract for services dated 1 April 2025 through 1 March 2027 by and between the town of Copper Canyon and Lisa Janke, adding the additional services related to the review and issuance of blood search warrants. This is our town judge. Troy, what information do we have on this?
Correct. So these next two items are related to when we hired the new judge. She was under contract. They both were under contract. Yankee is the primary judge. And what this does is if one of our officers pulls somebody over at 1 o'clock in the morning due to a DWI issue, a potential DWI issue, then they can call the judge immediately and she would issue a blood search warrant. And so that's the advantage of putting that in there. We haven't had any of those cases in Copper Canyon, but we looked at this and said, and we talked it over with the judge and said this would be something that would be good to add to their contract. And it's a $75 fee for her to administer that blood warrant.
Who would actually take the blood? The officer or?
Well, they would take them to a local facility to do that, my understanding. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes. So if we pull somebody over for a DWI and they refuse to, if we want them to do a breathalyzer and they refuse, we have to get a warrant for their blood. Or if they're under the influence of a narcotic, we would get a blood warrant. In that situation, we would get the warrant, we would take them to the ER and have a nurse draw that blood, and then we would take the blood and send it off to the lab so it could be analyzed. But we don't do the blood, we actually get a nurse to do that.
Any other discussion on that item? Okay, I'll take a motion to accept amend the existing contract for services dated from 1 April 2025 through March 31st, 2027 by and between the town of Copper Canyon, Texas, and Lisa Yankee, adding the additional services related to the review and issuance of blood service warrants.
Blood search warrant.
Blood search warrants, thank you.
Make a motion that we amend that we approve, or no. I make a motion that we
Amend the
Amend
existing
the
contract.
the existing contract for services dated April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2027 by and between the town of Copper Canyon, Texas and Alyssa Yankee, adding the additional service related to the review and issuance of blood search warrants.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Dahl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. That's approved by unanimous decision. Contract is amended. Number 5, discuss, consider, and take action regarding amending the existing contract for services dated from September 9th, 2025 through March 31st, 2027 by and between the town of Copper Canyon and Richard E. Anderson, adding the additional services related to the review and issuance of blood search warrants. Same thing. He's our backup judge for us that we have on contract, and the same issues as the previous. Any discussion? I'll close the discussion, and I'll take a motion for amending the existing contract.
I'll do that one too.
That's been, proposed by Councilmember Newton, and do I have a second?
I'll say it. I make a motion that we amend the existing contract for services dated September 9th, 2025 through March 31st, 2027 by and between the town of Copper Canyon, Texas and Richard E. Anderson, adding the additional services related to the review and issuance of blood search warrants.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Councilmember Hubbard. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. That's approved by unanimous decision. And the contract with Richard E. Anderson is amended to adding the additional services related to the review and issuance of blood search warrants. Next item, discuss, consider, and take action regarding the mowing services agreement between Landscape Express and the town of Copper Canyon for the period of October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026. I'll open discussion on taking action regarding the mowing services.
Just a couple of questions. You know, we had that, when we had our workshop, somebody mentioned mowing beyond the right-of-way.
Oh, Sue.
That was Sue.
Right.
Remember, we talked about maybe amending the contract or at some point.
Right, yeah, these proposals were submitted prior to that. And so if that's something the council wants to entertain, we certainly, can look at that as we get one of them approved, and we could amend it or ask them to do additional services, certainly.
Okay, I just want to make a note of that.
Yeah.
And I did have one question about, number 7, operators of equipment to be utilized by Landscape Express shall be approved in advance by a representative of the town. Are we doing that?
We can do that, I mean, that's upon request, certainly.
I mean, it says in their contract, I would assume that they mean anybody operating equipment has to be legal to operate that equipment, as far
Yes.
as have a driver's license or whatever. the
Yeah,
case
we can request that as part of the new contract.
Either take it out or let's do it, because,
Correct.
I
Have
don't
your
know.
lawn mowing license?
No, I'm just saying if they're driving the
Yeah.
big truck,
Oh.
or,
Right.
something.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
just trying to be,
Well, this company they'll have their insurance and all the other things they need to do in their
Right. Oh, yeah.
employment
Yeah.
practices,
I'm just
so
saying
I'm
that
not
it's
worried about
in
that.
there,
Yeah.
With
And thank-
regards, with regards to insurance, have we verified that their liability insurance is
Yes,
viable?
they've got a copy of their insurance, I believe, was part of the.
Yeah, I know they have a certificate, but has anybody called to make sure? We've had, when we were when I lived in an HOA, we had a landscape company that
Right.
actually provided this, and then we called, and it turned out that they had the piece of paper, but they had never paid the premium.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
Yep.
yeah.
We can verify it before we sign or after before we issue the contract, we can certainly do that.
Troy, quick explanation on why the roads that they chose, or we chose to have service versus others?
This was something I think that we had been doing in the past. It was the major thoroughfares. And I think that was budgeted that way because based on budget versus doing all the internals as well. So I think it was more, my understanding in the past, it was more of a budget concession than, well, let's have them mow all the right-of-ways in town, which would be a little bit higher expense for them to do. So.
And some of our streets are private streets too.
Yeah, no, it was just a
Yeah.
observation, didn't know how that got decided.
And I don't know if we know on Copper Canyon Road, we cover like 4 feet off the path, and then Denton County covers the rest. Because I was out there actually talking with the guy who was out there mowing that area, and we see on 407, now on our side of 407, the Denton County, I believe, or TxDOT has cleared the branches off quite a bit, all the way back to the fence line now. We didn't do that.
No, we did not.
Yeah, so TxDOT takes care of that for us on the extended path off the road. So, yeah, that gets cleaned, but it gets cleaned by other people.
Right, and this upcoming year, TxDOT won't do the center median anymore.
Center median, we're gonna
Yeah.
be on that.
So that's what we've added to the contract as well.
The good news is, in the budget we approved recently, we had $55,000 in there for mowing services. So
Correct.
we've got
That's
a little
correct.
wiggle room here to add more if we need to.
Correct.
So on the tree trimming, they're taking care of that on the major roads.
Yes.
And Jeff, Councilmember Dahl, was that addressed in the tree ordinance? It's like the canopy of the tree or anything to that effect? Because sometimes they, there have been incidences where they come in and just, so, I mean, that's not in there, right?
No.
From a public safety perspective, the town goes in there and trims those trees up, so to allow the fire trucks not to hit their equipment, so it's roughly about 14 feet. And we instruct our folks not to just go in there and cut straight lines and try to trim them up and naturally come up
Okay.
As well. So we
Okay,
instruct
good.
them to do that.
That's good.
So
We have that discussion with them.
we do pay for tree trimming on the right-of-way?
If there's along the street.
Just on these designated streets?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so if there's a tree in a bad storm that falls anywhere in Copper Canyon, we're getting it off the road. And we had a lot of that this past spring that occurred because it becomes a safety issue on a public street. So if it happened on a States Boulevard, it falls on the street, we're gonna go out there and try to take care of it to clear the road, allow emergency vehicles to come through, that type of thing, during a bad weather event, not on a regular basis at all. So,
And landowners are reminded they have to maintain their right-of-ways too and keep them clear. Line of sights coming off roads and things like that, but we do clear those out if we need to. All right, any other discussion on that? I will close that discussion, and I will request a motion to take action regarding, is that approved?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Mowing services agreement between Landscape Express and the town of Copper Canyon for the period of 1 October 2025 through 30 September 2026. A motion to approve.
I'll do this one. So I motion that we approve the mowing services agreement between Landscape Express and the town of Copper Canyon for the period of October 1, 2025 through September 30, 2026.
And do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Libbert. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. And that passes unanimously, and that mowing services agreement has been amended and approved for Copper Canyon and for the period from 1 October 2025 through September 30th, 2026.
Mayor, you mentioned amendment.
It was approved.
It was
It was
approved.
not amended.
Yeah,
Oh, approved, approved.
approved.
It doesn't say approve on my little sheet. Okay, number 7, discuss, consider, and take action regarding choosing a planning firm to perform diagnostic review of the town ordinances. We'll open discussion on that. I'll open it with that we had a meeting with a panel that was selected, and we interviewed 3 companies. They're in the packet. All 3 companies are in the packet as far as going through our ordinances, which is, I feel is very important, we feel is very important, and bring them up to date and close loopholes that are leaving us open to abuse, potential abuse by developers and those kind of things that we've not, and changing Copper Canyon in ways we don't want it to change. And that's why we have to review our ordinances from 1 through 14. We're not setting up the work amount right now, we're just approving the company that's gonna be doing it for us. And then we're gonna have another discussion with that company and assess what the ability is and what we can do. I see it as a multi-step process to where we're initial review, get us squared up with state law, and then finally input for where we're gonna, what we have suggested. So that's how I see the process working, and once again, it won't be done in a month either. It'll take a little while to get it all done. Anyways, with that discussion, does anybody have any other items they would like to discuss about that?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could add. And so, as you mentioned, there was a panel of 5 that interviewed 3 different firms that are in the packet. In that process, each member rated the 3 companies. And after the ratings, they were asked to submit an additional scope of work, which we gave them the parameters for that. And place strategies, I think, and Paula was, Councilmember Castile was on that panel as well. Kind of the way the scores fell out, it kind of leaned towards recommending place strategies, which we've got the representative here tonight if y'all have any questions for him. And also the fee also yielded us in the right direction as far as our budget. And as the mayor alluded to, this is really just to do a diagnostic evaluation of our ordinances 1 through 14, and then they'll give recommendations on next steps. And then from there, we can decide how detailed we would like this firm to get, or if we want to change firms, we have the option to do that as well.
So do we have an estimate on what it's gonna cost to rewrite the ordinances?
Well, we don't know what we need to rewrite until after the diagnostic.
We're just setting up the diagnostic right now.
I know, but is
Diagnostic
there like-
review. It may not be worth it. If it's not worth it, then we'll make that decision. But we'll see what it's
So
gonna
we're
cost.
basically just gonna get a list of everything that is either missing or wrong, or
Yeah,
recommendation to modify.
we'll let Mr. Garzea come up and speak to it. He's with Place Strategies, who presented the proposal to us and was in the interview as well.
Hi, Yvonne Gonzalez with Place Strategies. I'm the president of the company. It would be a priority list of all of the conflicts in the code, but also administration. How do you administer a code, even if on paper it is according to state law? I heard, during this meeting on the subdivision code, how do you administer some of those things? Some things that aren't as obvious, but it would come with a full report and a presentation after the diagnostic to kind of go over that. What are the priorities? What are the things that we have options? What are the things that are mandated by state law? And then what are best practices? You know, what are other communities doing in these situations? And what are the, you know, as the mayor said, loopholes that developers are kind of exploiting. There's a lot of state law right now that's changing how municipalities are working in development. So trying to stay ahead of that and be in compliance.
I mean, you've had a chance to look at our ordinances, obviously. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, are we looking at a ton of work, or you just give us a ballpark? I'm not gonna hold you to it. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I would not feel comfortable. I've looked at the ordinances, the amount of ordinances that you have, the 14 chapters. I've looked at the subdivision and the zoning. I have not had a chance to deep dive into all of them. The diagnostic is what's going to allow me to do that, but I also need feedback as far as what's the direction, what are things, common things that you guys are impacted now? What does this new subdivision code look like? You know, certain things that I wouldn't be able to say what we need to do, but that would come back to this body after the diagnostic to be able to assess, hey, is this worth it? Is this not worth it? Here are the items. We're flexible, so we can identify items. We can line item for you to see, hey, priority, high priority, middle priority, low priority, and then kind of have that discussion with you guys.
So if I can ask a question, have you worked before on reviewing and doing the diagnosis on ordinances of a town our size?
Yes, so I'm from a small town. I'm from the Midwest, so my town was 3,000 people, so I worked on their code of ordinances. But this size around, so I categorize small municipalities around the 5,000 or less mark, and so population. City of Justin, City of Aledo, City of Mena in Arkansas. I've worked with all of those recently within the last couple years on reviewing their ordinances. A lot of it's on the development side. I know in the 14 chapters there is more than just development in there. So that's a little bit different, but we can identify consistencies, gaps, and anything, especially over the course of decades of these ordinances. I mean, you find out things that have been amended over time and individually siloed. We can identify those.
I think that's a good word you use, silo, because we found out that our ordinances, once we write an ordinance, we think it's going to be correlated through the rest of our manuals and stuff like that, and it's not. And we need to have that review. I found that since I've been the mayor, that's an important issue. It's never been done here before. I think it's going to protect the town in the future, and it's going to get us correlated to state law. And the follow-up question from Victoria there, have you ever gone through one and not found a perfect document? Have you ever gone through there and found one that you didn't recommend any changes?
No, that doesn't exist.
So that doesn't exist. So even a little bit of change, even a correction will be important to us in the long run.
So just as a follow-up, those small towns that you worked on, how long did it take you?
So the scopes were a little bit different in all those towns. You know, so it depended on what we were there for. And a lot of those were complete rewrites. So they weren't a diagnostic first and then go in and assess what we need to do and what's high priority. Town of Little Elm, we did a diagnostic that was pertaining to their subdivision and zoning code. And so that was a very similar project, this first phase to what we're proposing here. And that diagnostic took us, I think depending on the public engagement, that kind of makes it, you know, anywhere from 3 months to up to 6 months, depending on scheduling, on work sessions, city council, that type of thing.
So the Little Elm is a lot bigger than
Not
ours.
big.
Yes. Yep. So, but that's a diagnostic that we've done, and so that was 3 to 6 months on the diagnostic. A complete rewrite, that can range depending on the size of the city. So we did City of Aledo, City of Justin, you know, we rewrote their zoning code That took, I think Alito was a year, and then Justin was a little bit more than that, about a year and a half, to rewrite the entire code, have the public engagement process, and completely rewrite that. Again, that's not what this is. This is more of a diagnostic, phase one, what do we need to address, and then go from there.
Can I? have a
Yes, ma'am.
question? I just want to say thank you all for what you did to bring this to us and to do the time that it took to, I know that that took time out of your schedule, and I appreciate that very much. I guess we didn't have the time to, we have not seen what the presentation looks like. Can you give me a snapshot? I've read, kind of what paperwork we've received. Can you give us kind of a snapshot of what your company profile looks like, what your team looks like? We're, just from my perspective, to give you what I'm looking at, we're kind of coming off a company that the quality of the technical writing aspect of it was not up to par from my perspective. And so I'm looking to see what, as you're looking from a diagnostic perspective, how can we ensure that when you answer to me what your team looks like, that the quality of what we're gonna get is technically up to the level of what we're wanting for our city?
Sure. So I'll start with, we're a small boutique firm. It is myself and another architect and city planner. We've both been practitioners. We pair up with other boutique firms. And so I have mostly been on the municipal side. I've been on the administration side, for over 10 years. And so I've been in the position of town staff trying to administer this, going through the hiccups of, looking a developer in the eye and being like, hey, I need this, and then having that pushback and seeing what's on writing and what is allowed, what I am allowed to ask and move through. So I've been the administrator in large and small cities. Most of my background is in that, is in zoning, subdivision, and development as an administrator. So our company started 2018, so we're coming up on 8 years of our firm being a private practice. And so we've worked on big, small, medium in the DFW area, but also Oklahoma, Arkansas. And so every single municipality that we've worked in, I would happily give as a reference. We have a long presence in the communities that we work in. So we have had multiple projects in cities in DFW, but also in the other states that we've been in. We have never had a bad reference when we've started a project. And so I think that speaks for having a good quality over quantity of projects. And we're small, so we can, I am the person that you will be dealing with. I will be doing the presentations, I will be doing the review. You can put a face. There's 2 people in our firm. There's nobody else that is going to be coming here to give this presentation. So we rely on our experience, our quality, and so we feel that speaks for itself on all of our references.
All right, I appreciate that. Very good conversation and very good parallel the meeting that we had with you in the selection process. So, thank you very much. And once again, this is just to select our firm. We the panel that we had, and we had P&Z members, we had town council members, we had the staff in this meeting, and so that's our recommendation to the board to select them to do the necessary steps and get started on this process of reviewing it. Like you said, it's a long process. It's not going to be done next week or this year, but we're going to get this thing done and review our ordinances so we can keep Copper Canyon. Anybody else have any other discussion on that item? And the answer is no, so I will enter a motion to take action regarding and approve choosing a planning firm and I have to get the name. Place Strategies to perform the diagnostic review of our town ordinances. Do I have a motion to accept Place Strategies as our company we're going to match it. Now, next month, we're gonna end up with producing a contract. We'll have our ability to set exactly the parameters, what we're gonna have them look at, and then they'll come out with a firm bid for us. Is that correct, Troy? Is that how we're gonna work this?
For the planning strategies?
Yes.
Well, you're approving to do the diagnostics.
The diagnostics, and that
tonight.
contract's in here.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
So we're approving diagnostics for place strategies in relation to our town ordinances.
I'll make a motion that we choose Place Strategies to perform the diagnostic review of our town ordinances, chapters 1 through 14.
Motion by Councilman Castillo, and do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Libbert. And all in favor of choosing Place Strategies as a firm to perform diagnostic review of our town ordinances, say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. That's approved then, finally, choosing Place Strategies. Coming up on next item then, discussion for future agenda item. And council member may request any item be placed on subsequent agenda items for consideration. Does any council member have anything they want to mention for the next meeting, November 10th? November 10th. No? So next, so there's some out there. So next month, I hope to have a aviation ordinance out for us, and which we've been working on with our team and our lawyer. We're gonna start this ordinance review, and we're gonna start discussing also the updating our fire code to where we need to be with the new fire code and stuff, for hopefully by next year. So that's where I want to be on next item. And I'll take a motion, any other item discussion from anyone? Take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Newton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Nay. Motion adjourned, town adjourned at 8:55.